I found out my best friend was using my credit card to fund her $30,000 shopping addiction. She said, "What's a few dresses?" I got my revenge in a way she never saw coming. I found out my best friend of 15 years was stealing from me. Not just a few bucks here and there, she spent over $30,000 on my credit card, and she thought it was no big deal. I'll never forget her words when I confronted her. "What's a few dresses between friends?" That sentence still echoes in my head. Here's how it all went down. My name's Cyril, and I live in Bloomington, Indiana. It's a quiet, small town with a handful of chain restaurants, a Walmart, and not much else. I've been living here my whole life, working as a librarian at the local branch. It's not glamorous, but it's enough. I inherited my house from my grandmother, so my expenses are pretty low, and I've always been good with money, at least, I thought I was. I had a little nest egg saved up, some investments, and excellent credit. Life wasn't perfect, but it was manageable. For 15 years, my best friend Soraya was a huge part of my life. She's the kind of person who commands attention the moment she walks into a room. Her dark, glossy hair, perfectly manicured nails, and designer clothes made her stand out in our little town. Soraya loved the finer things in life. She was always talking about her latest finds at Nordstrom or her favorite skincare routine that cost more than my entire monthly grocery budget. But she made it all seem normal, like she just had a knack for stretching her paycheck. We met in college. Back then, she was charming and a little mysterious, but most of all, she made me feel special. She had this way of making you think you were the most important person in the world when she talked to you. Over the years, we became inseparable. She helped me pack up after my divorce, dragged me out for drinks when I wanted to stay home, and stayed up late with me during some of the hardest times of my life. I thought she was loyal, someone I could trust completely. I was wrong. It all started about 2 years ago. Soraya asked if she could use my Amazon account to order something, just to save on shipping. It was a small thing, and she Venmo'd me the money right away. Over time, this became a regular thing. She'd order yoga mats, makeup, or skincare products, and I didn't think much of it. She always paid me back, so what was the harm? Then, one day, she asked if I'd mind if she put her card on my account, so she could keep things simple. She said she'd add it for her purchases and remove it when she was done. I didn't see the harm. We were best friends, after all. And for a while, everything seemed fine. But then the charges started piling up. At first, it was small stuff, a $50 charge here, $100 there. I assumed it was Soraya using my card by mistake and didn't say anything. She was always so quick to pay me back before, I figured she'd notice and fix it herself. But the charges kept getting bigger. Designer handbags. Shoes. Perfume. I started seeing stores I'd never even heard of on my statement, places like Farfetch and Net-a-Porter. One month, there was a $500 charge from Saks Fifth Avenue. My stomach dropped. When I texted her about it, she brushed it off. "Oh, that's just a return waiting to process," she said. "It'll come off soon. Don't worry." I wanted to believe her, so I let it go. But deep down, something didn't feel right. Over the next few months, the charges grew more frequent, and more expensive. My card was maxed out, and I didn't even know how it happened. One day, I logged into my account and saw the balance, $30,458. That's when I realized it wasn't just a few accidental charges. This was intentional. My heart was pounding as I scrolled through the statements. The purchases went back nearly a year. Balenciaga, Gucci, Sephora, store after store, charge after charge. I felt sick. My savings were gone. She'd spent every penny I had and then some. I called her immediately. She picked up on the third ring, sounding annoyed. "What now, Cyril?" she said, like I was the one inconveniencing her. "What now?" My voice was shaking. "Soraya, you've been using my credit card. Do you even realize how much you've spent? There are charges here I never authorized, $30,000 worth." She didn't even hesitate. "Oh, that," she said, laughing. "It's not a big deal. I'll pay you back eventually." Eventually? I could barely get the word out. "You've drained my account. You maxed out my card. I can't even buy groceries right now because of you." There was a long pause, then she said, "Cyril, relax. It's just shopping. What's a few dresses between friends? You're acting like I robbed a bank." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A few dresses? This wasn't a misunderstanding. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she didn't care. She didn't apologize. She didn't even try to explain. She just sat there, acting like I was the problem. I hung up and sat there in shock. My hands were shaking, my heart racing. This was someone I trusted, someone I thought of as family. And she'd been stealing from me the whole time. That's when the anger set in. She wasn't going to get away with this. I didn't know how, but I was going to make her pay. After I hung up, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with anger, humiliation, and a cold determination. Soraya had betrayed me, and she wasn't even sorry. She thought she could walk all over me, treat me like a doormat, and get away with it. But I wasn't going to let her. She had to learn a lesson, and I was going to make sure it hit her where it hurt. First, I gathered all the evidence. I went through every single charge on my credit card statements, highlighting every unauthorized purchase she'd made. I printed everything out and organized it into a neat folder. Then I found every text and email where she admitted to using my card or mentioned paying me back. I made copies of those too. I wanted to make sure I had an airtight case. The next step was to protect myself. I called my credit card company and explained the situation. At first, they were hesitant, saying it was a personal dispute, but I didn't back down. I provided the evidence, including screenshots of texts where Soraya admitted to using my card without permission. After some back and forth, they finally agreed to open a fraud investigation. They also issued me a new card and froze the old one. That was step 1 of my plan. Step 2 was a bit more personal. I knew Soraya loved to shop, but what she loved even more was showing off. She lived for the compliments, the attention, the oohs and ahs when she walked into a room. Her Instagram was full of posts flaunting her expensive wardrobe, complete with hashtags like #luxurylife and #designeronly. She didn't just want nice things, she wanted everyone to know she had them. That was her weak spot, and I was going to exploit it. I created a new Instagram account under a fake name and started following her. Then I waited for the perfect moment. It didn't take long. A few days later, she posted a picture of herself in a brand new Balenciaga dress, holding a Chanel bag. The caption read, "Treat yourself, because you're worth it. #blessed #luxury, addict." That was it. The dress and the bag were both on my credit card statement. I took screenshots of the post and added them to my growing folder of evidence. Then I reached out to a lawyer. I explained everything, how Soraya had used my card without permission, how I had the receipts and text to prove it, and how she had publicly flaunted the stolen items. The lawyer was blunt but encouraging. "You have a strong case. Let's go after her." We filed a police report for credit card fraud and submitted all the evidence. It was surreal walking into the police station, but the officers took it seriously, especially when they saw how much money was involved. Soraya had stolen more than $30,000, which made it a felony. The next step was notifying her. My lawyer sent her an official letter demanding repayment of the full amount within 30 days or we would proceed with legal action. I didn't tell her it was coming. I wanted her to be blindsided, just like I had been. The day she got the letter, she called me in a panic. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Cyril, babe, this has to be a misunderstanding. Let's talk about this, okay? You don't need to involve lawyers." I didn't respond. Instead, I let my lawyer handle everything. Over the next few weeks, Soraya tried everything. She texted me, called me, even showed up at my house once, banging on the door and crying. I didn't let her in. She wasn't my friend anymore. She was just a thief. When the 30 days were up, and she hadn't paid a dime, we moved forward with the lawsuit. Soraya didn't show up to the first hearing, probably thinking it would just go away. Big mistake. The judge ruled in my favor, ordering her to repay the full amount plus legal fees. But that wasn't the best part. While the lawsuit was ongoing, I shared my story, anonymously, of course, on Reddit and a few local Facebook groups. I included screenshots of her Instagram posts flaunting the stolen items, with her name blurred out. The posts blew up. People in our town started talking, connecting the dots, and figuring out it was Soraya. Word spread fast. Suddenly, she wasn't the glamorous fashionista everyone admired, she was the woman who stole $30,000 from her best friend. Her reputation was ruined. She lost her job at the boutique she worked at. Apparently, they didn't want a thief handling the register, and people started unfollowing her on Instagram in droves. She went from being the queen bee to a social pariah almost overnight. But the icing on the cake? The police didn't drop the case. Credit card fraud is serious, and with all the evidence I provided, they decided to press charges. Soraya was arrested and had to face criminal charges on top of the civil judgment. She ended up pleading guilty to avoid jail time, but she was left with a felony record and thousands of dollars in fines and restitution. As for me, I got my money back, thanks to a combination of the lawsuit and the credit card company's fraud protection. It took months, but in the end, I was made whole. Soraya, on the other hand, lost everything: her money, her reputation, and her freedom. She tried to reach out one last time, sending me a long, rambling email about how sorry she was and how she hoped we could move past this. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Revenge isn't always the answer, but in this case, it was justice. Soraya thought she could take advantage of me and face no consequences. She was wrong. She underestimated me, and she paid the price.